we're talking about Regina's relationship with eating basically carbs, pasta, pizza, toast, foods that she really enjoys. And she expressed that she has trouble eating in moderation. So my question was, what is it about these foods that create the problem for you to eat in moderation? And she says she attributed to novelty with these kinds of foods. So I asked where the messaging came from. So she wrote a combination of all three, and I suggested diet culture, social media, or things she was told as she was growing up. So Regina, this is where a little bit of education needs to be brought into the mix, that carbohydrates are a necessary nutrient, right? They're just as important as protein and fat. So they're considered a macronutrient because they cover a very large scope of nutrition, right? We get B vitamins from carbohydrates, we get fiber from carbohydrates, and we get glucose from carbohydrates, which feeds our brains as well as other bodily functions. So this whole messaging that carbs are quote unquote bad is really a false message. So you asked, how do you give yourself permission to eat what you enjoy? You give yourself permission to eat what you enjoy by giving yourself permission, by realizing that it's not a bad food. And I would say that a strategy for enjoying such foods would be to really slow down, to savor the food that you are choosing to eat. It's not about willpower. It's about making an empowered choice. You're giving yourself permission. You're choosing to eat food that you enjoy. You're choosing to eat food that brings you pleasure. You're choosing to eat food that brings you a sense of satisfaction. But if you slow down and you really experience the food, your body will let you know when it's had enough. The mindset of scarcity that you bring with you to the table when you're eating such foods, or I don't even know if you're eating them at the table, you might be eating them while you're standing up or in the car or in your bed. But the mindset of scarcity has you thinking restriction as opposed to choice. Does that make sense? And I also want to say something about choosing not to eat something. Choosing not to eat a food because it doesn't make you feel well is not restricting. Again, you are making an empowered choice. You're honoring the messages that your body is sending you. Our body sends messages as symptoms. I hope that answered your question, Regina.
That's good.
Okay. Great. Did this conversation bring up anything for anyone else? I know Mensel is here, and in the past, Mensel has joined us and talked about the fact that she has a very harsh list of do's and don'ts when it comes to food. And we've been talking to her about learning to make choices and listening to her body. And I'd love to know, Mensel, where you are since last month when we spoke.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. Hello.
Okay. I said that I'm backing up Regina in everything that she said regarding pasta and pizza and all those things. You know, most people are afraid of eating them because of the consequences of gaining weight and looking, I don't know how. I don't have any such restrictions. I'm also a fan of pasta and pizza and everything. And I'm even not concerned about what everybody says it's healthy or it's not healthy. I'm only concerned about how I do feel when I eat something, anything.
Right.
And just like I am also craving pasta, but most of all, I'm craving dairy. And my biggest problem is dairy, that I became afraid of eating dairy and tried to restrict it. And I'm all the time, I'm hungry because I'm almost not eating meat, almost at all, very rarely. And I miss the dairy. Plants and good and nice and sometimes even tasty. But I don't think that somebody can live only on plant-based proteins and okay, sugars is less of a problem because you eat fruits. They have enough sugar. But I miss the proteins, the
And why aren't
animal proteins.
why are you not eating the animal protein?
Because I cannot eat dairy because I'm afraid that all my body pains come from the inability to digest proteins, to absorb.
Oh, wait, there's dairy, there's protein from dairy, and then
Protein from
there's
dairy.
animal protein, which would be your meat.
Meat not so. Meat with meat I don't have problems. But I'm
Okay.
not eating meat by by my habit of not eating a lot of meat.
Okay. In terms, so you're getting protein from meat. You're eating fish?
I'm eating fish. I don't exactly like fish too much, so I'm eating canned fish or rarely salmon fish.
Okay.
Not a fish
So-
person, not a meat person.
So the problem is that you're missing dairy.
I'm missing dairy.
There are a lot of non-dairy substitutes. You can eat non-dairy yogurt. You can eat non-dairy cheeses. You know, a lot of companies now are producing very good quality dairy substitutes. Have you tried any of those?
I have tried kind of substitute for cheese, for kind of cream cheese, a little lighter cream cheese. There are some of them that are good and some that are bad, but none of them is cheese, really.
That's true. But the bottom line is, this is what I was talking about before, about making the choice to choose to eat what makes you feel best and not thinking in terms of being deprived if you're choosing not to eat something because of how it makes you feel. You know, I tell my clients all the time that self-indulgence in an effort not to feel deprived only serves to deprive you of feeling like your best self. It only serves to deprive you of what your goals are for your health. And that's something that's very important to understand, to change your mindset and realize that food should not have that kind of power over you.
Most of the discussion goes around it's healthy or it's not healthy.
Okay, but Mensel, we've
that
discussed
makes me mad because I want to eat what allows me not to feel body pain.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you feel body pain when you eat dairy, or is it something that you're afraid of feeling?
It happens very often. Sometimes it happens even without dairy. Sometimes I eat a piece of fat cheese and it doesn't happen.
Okay.
But mostly when I eat just a few teaspoons of yogurt, my body explodes.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest that you buy a lactase enzyme and you experience an experiment and take this lactase enzyme and see how you feel when you eat dairy. You might be missing this enzyme that is very much needed in order for our bodies to break down lactose, which is the sugar that is found in dairy. And it's a very simple solution. And that's what I would suggest for you.
I'm taking a kind of enzyme now combined with a probiotic, but
you need to take a specific enzyme for lactose, which is the enzyme in dairy. It's called lactase, Lactase.
Yes, it has lactase and it has protease also.
Okay, well, you might need more.
Kind of
Or you might have to make peace with the fact that your body cannot handle dairy.
That's only my conclusion. Nobody is able to confirm it, because I think that should be some test, some kind of investigation that could confirm, yes, that is your problem.
There are tests. There are food sensitivity tests. There's a breath test you can take, a hydrogen breath test that can determine if you are lactose intolerant. And there are plenty of food sensitivity tests out there, which is why I suggested you speak to my colleague, Tali, who can help you with all of that.
I waited for a feedback from her, but no one came up to now.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll continue this discussion.
That discussion that gluten is forbidden because it's unhealthy for everybody, and it's you shouldn't eat any kind of grains, not just wheat.
Okay, but Menzel, I'm going to interrupt you gently, because what you're talking about are messages that are floating around the universe that are not what I like to refer to as bio-individual, that don't speak to what your body, my body, Linda's body, Becky's body, Regina's body is doing with the food that you are eating. And that's what digestion is all about. Digestion nutrition is where food meets physiology. And there are no one-size-fits-all rules. There are no blanket rules. You have to have patience and determine what makes you feel best and choose your diet based on that, not what the media is telling you or a friend's doctor is telling her. It's what your body is doing with the food you're eating. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. And I won't, during this format, discuss the fact that gluten is bad, dairy is bad. That's not what this is about. This is about looking at individual challenges with eating on an individual basis so that I could support you with what you need, not with what you're hearing in the media. Because that doesn't support you. That doesn't support you. Otherwise, nobody would be eating anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Anon has a question next. She can only type. I experienced a wild emotional response last week when being overpowered by a scenario. I went to the store and bought ice cream bars and powdered donuts, both poison. You wrote, your words, not mine. Even though I knew how bad they are, again, your words, not mine. I could not yet change the course of that. Okay, so this is what we would refer to as emotional eating, right? An emotionally charged situation that causes you to seek self-soothing in order to either check out from the feeling that's uncomfortable, avoid the feeling that's uncomfortable, or numb yourself to the feeling that's uncomfortable. So that is obviously what you experienced. Oh, Linda, you can just go like that.
Okay.
One sec. And let me just finish this thought.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be that. You couldn't change the course of that. I want you to understand, if this is your first time with me, I very often explain that our very first experience as humans with being nurtured, being seen, being held, has to do with being fed. We have no sense of self, no sense of autonomy. We only know that the one person responsible for our care and feeding is the person or the situation that we can feel safe within. And we all strive to feel safety. The brain keeps that in storage, right? The limbic part of the brain remembers, eat, feel better. And it stays there forever. So very often, when we are thrown by an emotionally charged situation, we're going to automatically reach for food for comfort. The strategy here becomes being patient, initiating a pause, practice some breathing, and practice what I call the 4 Ds: delay, distract, determine, decide. Delay the behavior, that's the pause. Distract yourself. Calling a friend, taking a walk, folding laundry, taking a bath, a shower. That will look different for each of us. Then determine what's really going on. Are you hungry? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Are you tired? Are you bored? Are you stressed? That's halting the BS. And then you can determine what you're really hungry for. And I know I roll that off my tongue easily. I'm certainly not inferring that it's easy, but that would be the ultimate strategy. The other thing is to show yourself some self-compassion, because if you were so thrown last week by an experience, feeling overpowered, got to give yourself some love. If in the moment it meant turning to food, so be it. It's over. You could move on. If it was terribly uncomfortable, you can think about how next time you're going to perhaps practice some resilience, initiate that pause, and then move on. We can't always get over things, but we can get on with our lives in a way that serves us the best. And again, go back to what I said about self-indulgence, right? Self-indulgence in an effort not to feel deprived. And it's not always about food, right? How are we deprived in our lives? So many ways we can be deprived in our lives. But self-indulgence only serves to further deprive us. Linda, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question. Thank you for these calls. You are such a sweetheart, Mindy.
Oh, thank you, Linda. I appreciate your email so very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for being so open. I've struggled for years with, I guess, I was trying to determine if it's emotional eating or binge eating. I'm not quite sure which. And what I'm struggling most with right now is, there's lots of barbecues this time of year and functions. And I don't want to, what I notice is that I'm trying to employ a strategy. Well, I'll really eat a lot less today. And what the biggest challenge is, I don't want to call them food pushers because sometimes they're just lovely hosts, but have some dessert. Well, just a piece. You don't want this. That's all you're eating. And so I know sometimes I have an aunt who's an absolute food pusher. She'll tell me, you're too thin. You need to eat. You have to eat 3 meals. And she puts the food on your plate. So for her, I manage how often I see her. But on Sunday, we had a function, and I find myself, I don't know the words or the script that I can say, because I'll be happy if I have a sliver of cheesecake, or I want to eat slow. I'm going to try to really, that slow down and pause really helps before you see all the food, because I almost feel like a bear takes me over and I see it and I want all of it. Yet when I'm in my own house, I don't feel that way. So I guess my question is how to manage enjoying myself without diving in and then thinking I have to restrict for 4 days because I overate.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
I think in my head sometimes I go to, I don't want to say the word, but oh, screw it. Like, what's the point? It's this, and I know, yeah, I don't know what that is, but
Yeah, again, it's about giving yourself permission. It's about experiencing the experience and not making it about the food. The food is a part of it and a wonderful part of it. That's how culturally, that's how we celebrate. It's how we mourn. It's how we socialize, right? But I want to
Mhm.
go back to something you said in the very beginning, the difference between emotional eating and binging, because there is a difference.
Mm.
A binge is defined as eating a large quantity of food in a very short amount of time and eating well past beyond the feeling of fullness. Okay, now emotional eating, like I just talked about, can lead to a binge, but emotional eating is basically turning to food in an emotionally charged situation. Again, it can lead to a binge, but in a lot of cases, when you're in that mode, you know what you're doing and you can stop. When you're into that binge mindset, you're almost out of body.
Mhm. I
Makes
think that,
sense?
yes, totally, and I've experienced both of those a lot. I'm not sure if that was specifically what was happening Sunday. It was just like, okay, I'll just take what the host is giving me rather than, I think I've got to employ the pause. I didn't need steak and pizza. Who needs a whole steak and pizza? I was fine. I didn't beat myself up going home, but I just said yes to what was being brought to me. How to be uh
Well, setting boundaries,
gracious to a
that's
host who, yeah,
that's a whole different topic, right? It's setting
yeah,
boundaries, and the lack of healthy boundaries is just showing up in this instance. But it's about wanting to be a beautiful guest, wanting to be, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but a people pleaser. You
yes,
can be gracious and
absolutely.
receive and just be a part of what's going on. And the other thing I want to say about overeating is that even people with the healthiest relationships with food will occasionally overeat, like who hasn't had that piece of birthday cake after a full meal just because, or an
Yeah.
extra piece of lasagna because it's just so delicious and it reminds me of somebody you love so much. So again, it's self-compassion. It's understanding the why. What is my why? What is the context surrounding my behavior? That helps. That really helps to understand. And again, putting it behind you and moving forward. And if it is uncomfortable for you, using it as a lesson. I know in my own recovery story, every relapse, every fall backwards, I looked at, after I stopped beating myself up, obviously, but I looked at as a lesson that I knew that when I thought about it, did I really need to go that far? Did I really need to lose myself? In my case, it was restriction. Did I really need to do that? Did I really need to swallow a handful of laxatives?
Mhm.
It's owning that, it's finding agency, becoming accountable to ourselves. And then the script for learning to say no is just, this is so delicious. I'm so happy to be here. I'm going to take a break and just watch everybody else enjoy. I'm full right now.
I've never said that. It's almost like I think I can't say that and then live into my words. I think like if it's in front of me, I don't know but that's a really, really, I'm going to really start looking at that and the lesson and offering myself compassion rather
Yeah.
than going home thinking I blew it. I had no control.
No. But the other thing also is going back to what I was talking about with Regina. It's giving yourself permission, right? Not having to save up the calories for the meal, right? If you nourish yourself properly enough during the day and you have adequate nutrition and you listen to the wisdom of your body, you're going to stop when you've had enough. Because then you just get yourself into that restricting binge cycle.
Right.
Because again, who wants to feel deprived?
No one.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
Well,
really great. Thank
We
you
could
so
keep
much.
talking about this. Becky, I wanted to speak to your question about digestive issues and constipation and bloating. Can you be a little bit more specific?
Hi.
Hi.
It seems like I'm having a hard time finding out what my body likes, because sometimes even just drinking water makes my stomach really big and hard and up top and hurt. So it almost feels like when the gal had said, "Oh, screw it," it kind of feels like, man, it doesn't matter what I'm eating. A nice, beautiful salad will do the same thing to me as a hamburger. And so, and the same with the, not only the digestive issues, but constipation.
Okay, yeah, well, if constipation is a problem, then just think about this, right? Let's say, the drain is stuffed up, and then so
Yes.
whatever is going to sit on top of it is going to cause discomfort.
Yes.
So how are you addressing the constipation?
Well, trying the fiber, I do smoothies, and I try mostly vegetable soups and a lot of magnesium.
What kind of magnesium? Do you know the type?
I can go look at it.
Sure, take your time.
I believe it's the citrate.
Okay, well, that's supposed to help.
Yes, and I got that one specifically.
Yeah.
Yes, it's citrate. It says citrate complex specifically to help me go. And it seems like if I do a whole bunch, then I might occasionally go. But again, a very distended, hard tummy most of the day.
Yeah.
And then I also have done enemas, and which I don't like doing. I don't know if because my mind is telling me this feels unnatural, but it does help me go.
Okay. Well, stress.
Yes.
Okay, stress impacts digestion by
Yes.
basically shutting it down, right? When we
Yes.
are in that fight or flight head space, all of the energy in our body is going to our extremities, our blood pressure, to get us out of danger,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
being that the digestive system requires more energy than any other system of the body, stress is going to greatly impact digestion. So breathing helps, stomach massage helps. I also find that castor oil packs help.
Okay. Yes.
That's very helpful. Yeah, fiber is great, except if you have any sort of bacterial overgrowth, otherwise known as SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, fiber is not indicated. So it's really important to do some evaluating and exploring about what's going on in there. Have you seen a GI specialist?
No, I don't have insurance right now, so I'm holding off till next year when I
Okay.
can. But I'm trying to rule things out, and I had thought I should probably do the elimination diet. Either that, or I was even thinking of fasting and then introducing one by one to see, if I need to go on low FODMAP or.
Yeah, but you know what? This is the thing with fasting. You're not putting anything into your system. to be digested. So the idea is to get your system moving.
Yes.
Okay. Walking, stomach massage really helps. Like if you're laying down, just like moving like this and
Okay.
going in the from right to left, because your colon is on the left right here. Can you see
Uh-huh.
right here? Okay,
Yes.
so you'd be going like this. That's very helpful. Castor
Okay.
oil acts. And again, you can go buy organic castor oil, get a flannel cloth, put a tablespoon or two in the middle. It can get a little messy, so don't use too much, and just lay it on your stomach and relax for 20 minutes. And you could put some heat on it if you want. It's not necessary, but that's very helpful too, to get things moving. And of course, movement. Water is great. You don't want to drink too much though, to cause discomfort. And then as far as experimenting with a low FODMAP diet, there's a wonderful app called Monash, Monash. It's Monash University. They're out of Montreal, I believe. And it's a fantastic app on the phone, and it gives you the high to low, like red, yellow, and green for high FODMAP foods. And the thing with FODMAP foods is that, to quote an old teacher of mine, the poison is really in the dose. Because I'll give you an example, like some people can't eat apples at all if they're on a low FODMAP diet, but then someone could have a few pieces cut up in a salad. So it's really a question of, I'm going to go back to what I kept saying before. It's like ad nauseum already. Tune into the wisdom of your body. Listen to the messages that your body is sending you. And it might also help you to journal your food for a little while, even 5 days, to journal what you ate, how you felt afterwards, how hungry you were before, how satisfied you were after. It's not always about fullness, it's about satisfaction.
Oh, good.
And because sometimes also, if there is a food sensitivity, it could not show up for 72 hours.
Oh,
So there's a lot of exploring and digging, that we could talk about. But start by listening and slow it down, chew your food really well, practice some breathing, and think about how you can manage stress better if that's an issue for you.
yes, it is. Yes.
Okay. Because, stress will do one of two things. Stress will either stop you up or it'll create loose, runny bowels because it speeds up transit time.
When I stress, I stop breathing, I tighten up, everything tightens up. Yeah.
Okay, so then you know what you need to do. You need to work on strategies to relax your body.
Relax. Yes.
And just, think about letting it go. That same teacher that I quoted before about poison being in the dose, he used to say, what crap are you holding on to?
Yeah.
What can you let? That was Mark David, who was the president, the founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. But it's true. In fact, he didn't use the word crap, but he was a little bit more risque than that. But if you think about it, what can you let go of, right? What are you holding on to that isn't serving you?
Yeah.
What do you not have control over? I mean, and very often it's the same thing that drives us to overeat in an effort to numb, avoid, and distract.
And what were your 4 Ds again?
Okay. Delay,
Yes.
distract,
Right.
determine,
Okay.
and decide. And when you get to the determined part, it's, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Am I bored? Am I stressed? So let's look at each thing, right? So if you're hungry, obviously you need to look at how nutrient dense were the meals you've eaten, or are you holding back because of, you know, some attachment to diet mentality? Are you angry? Did somebody really just make you feel really uncomfortable and you don't know how to express it and want to stuff down those feelings? Are you lonely? Do you need some connection? Are you tired? Are you sleeping enough? Are you bored? What can you do to occupy yourself? And are you stressed? What's going on in my life that I can handle better? You know, somebody asked me today what I do, and assuming that I, you know, had training in nutrition, they assumed that all I did was help people lose weight. And I said, I don't do that. I work with a different population. I work with women who have eating challenges and those who are struggling with their weight first lose weight when they stop dieting, and they start giving them selves permission, and they find pleasure in life and in food. And they look at how they're sleeping, and they look at how they're moving, and they look at their relationships, and they look at their hydration. Food is a very small part of it. Very small part of it. Half of good nutrition is what we eat. The other half is who we are as eaters. How are we eating? Why are we eating? When are we eating? And when all of those how, why, and whens are examined and explored, the what has a funny way of taking care of itself.
Nice.
Because we're giving ourselves what we truly are hungry for. And that's how we live fully nourished lives.
Mm.
Food loses its power. And the truth is, if you're overeating or you're restricting, food is still more powerful than you are, because it takes a lot of strength to restrict.
Yeah, and deprive.
Yeah, of course.
That's beautiful.
I hope that helps.
That helps a lot. I took a whole page of notes right there, so thank you. I'm gonna
Okay, good.
digest that instead of digesting. When my stomach doesn't digest, I'll just digest this.
Exactly, right? You know, it's how we digest life around us,
Yeah,
right? It all
yeah,
starts with clearing the clutter.
yeah.
Right? Getting rid of what's no longer serving us. You know, you said an elimination diet. Well, the best elimination diet is getting rid of the inflammatory thoughts and beliefs that we have.
Uh,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. I'm writing that down. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, you're so very welcome. No other questions, no other concerns, challenges, wins. Where you are in your health journeys.
I on my health journey, I hadn't had to worry much about food. I'm 64, and most of my life I've kind of stayed the same. It wasn't an issue until this past year. And I guess it started with the pandemic. And prior to that, it started with losing my father and losing my husband.
Oh,
Uh,
so sorry.
And then all of a sudden, within 8 months, I packed on 40 pounds from a normal size 4 up to 12s are kind of tight. And all sorts of digestive issues. And so I guess you're right. I'm holding on to a lot of crap and it's not serving me. So that's
You know, I've lost a husband too. I get it. And we go through so many cascades of emotion, and it's very easy to want to lose ourselves in that grief. And sometimes the behaviors that we resort to really become protective. They keep us, sometimes feels better to isolate when you're so sad and grieving. So again, this is where, Becky, you've got to have compassion for yourself, and try and connect to the wisdom of your body with that compassion. Think about hugging yourself.
Mm.
And giving yourself some slack. And how can you go forward with grace and dignity? And you will, again, you will, that I can promise you. And, I can share with you that my husband's going on, August will be 19 years.
Wow.
And I still think of him every day. And I think about what was and what could have been.
Could have been.
And I have a very full life now too. So I've remarried, but there's just something about being in that place.
Yeah.
Don't think you have to get over it, because you won't. You're just gonna move on.
Mm.
And he'll always be with you.
Yeah.
Do you have children?
Yes. And one did well, and one kind of isolated herself and, got her own family and kind of doesn't want to be a part of much, just a couple times a year. And so I think that's another thing I need to let go. She gets to make her choice, and I need to let it go.
Yeah, I have two daughters, and they were in their early to mid 20s when they lost their dad. And
Yes.
a big lesson for me, and maybe this can help you, is that the three of us had to learn that we were all grieving differently.
Yes.
They lost their father. They lost the person they looked up to the most. And I lost a life partner.
Yes.
And neither of us could understand. I hadn't lost a parent. And neither of us could really fully understand what the other was feeling. And when I realized that, it made a lot of my frustration and my pain easier. And I told them that too, that they couldn't understand my loss. And I respected that. I didn't expect them to understand my loss, but it helped to get that out in the open. And they saw me not only as their mother, but as a woman.
Yeah. I like that.
It's hard to have those uncomfortable conversations. Just yesterday, I had one of those uncomfortable conversations with my daughters, and I said to them, we've got to get used to having these uncomfortable conversations, because before you know it, you're going to come to me and tell me you have to take my car keys away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all kind of laughed.
Comfortable, so may as well get used to it.
Yeah,
Good point.
It's so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable, but find ways to laugh and find ways to love, especially yourself. And you can reach out to me anytime. Please do.
Thank you.
You're so
You're
very
so warm and refreshing. Thank you.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Any more questions, concerns, challenges?
If we go by a definition that I just heard 2 or 3 days ago, then you should have a bowel movement after every meal. Then I came to the conclusion that 90% of the humanity is constipated.
That's right. Again, Menzel. So here, that's just a perfect example of you understanding that what you're hearing does not necessarily apply to you. And that's where you've got to start setting boundaries for yourself too, in what you listen to and what you expose yourself to, and start making decisions for your body that make you feel best.
I learn from every conference, I learn a little bit piece of knowledge that I hear 1 week summit to hear about one single thing that I haven't heard up to now. And here in the last conference, I learned about something that is called GG. You know what's that?
I don't know.
It's called geranyl geraniol. They say it's a component that helps the coenzyme Q10 to be more active, more available to the body. Because most of the disorders may come from a mitochondria dysfunction. Even breaking food can be a result of the body not having enough energy
Mhm.
to break down food, to
Do
break
you
down
have a
macronutrients.
medical background, Mensel?
I don't have only these conferences, 3 years of conferences, but I tell everybody that I already know more medicine than all the doctors that I have visited.
Okay, so now you've got to take that information
I
and
can
figure
teach
out
them now.
and figure out what you can take that works for you
That's
and
what
what
I'm
you can set
trying.
aside that doesn't, and keep it on the side. And it might help somebody else, but it just might not apply to you.
I'm ready to make any experience that doesn't end with the disaster, because most the medicine that I got from the doctors ended up in a disaster after the first pill.
Well,
So I gave up taking medicine because, but nutrition also, I don't know what's the truth when they say eating carbs don't contain any nutrients at all.
There's no truth to that.
So how
There is
can
no
it be
truth to
that
that.
a grain, a piece of a grain, it contains some kind of nutrients, minerals?
Yes, there is no truth to that, Menzel. There really is.
Yes.
It's a that whoever made that statement made a very foolish statement. Grains are loaded with fiber, with B vitamins. Many grains are loaded with iron. Grains have protein. Of course, carbohydrate, which we need in order to survive. Grains, for some people are inflammatory, but that doesn't mean they live without them forever. It means they just take them out of their diet for a short amount of time and then add them back when the inflammation dies down. And as I started talking about in the very beginning with Regina's question, I said carbohydrate is a macronutrient just as important as protein and fat.
There are doctors that explain, MD, medical doctors, explain that the single healthy diet is the whole plant-based diet.
No,
No
not all
meat,
doctors
no
believe that.
carbs, no nothing.
All right, Menzel, dear, plants are carbohydrates. I must correct you. Plants are carbohydrates. If you're talking about bread, bagels, pasta, pizza, that's a whole different ballgame. But whole grains, vegetables, fruits, they're all carbohydrates. Oats, all carbohydrate.
Others explain that if you don't eat animal proteins, that only animal proteins contain all the amino acids.
Well,
that
that's
the
very
body
true.
needs.
That is very true. And if
Plants
you,
contain proteins, but those are made of less number of amino
Yes.
acids, so are
the
less efficient.
essential amino acids can only be gotten from animal protein. So if somebody is following a vegan diet, it's very important that they supplement with amino acids. And thank you for your heart. I appreciate it.
I can teach nutrition. All the doctors that I have met, I can teach.
Yeah,
them.
well, unfortunately, most doctors don't get more than 4 hours of nutrition training
Yeah.
during medical school. I hope that's changing. I hope that's changing. Because the father of medicine, Hippocrates, said that food is medicine. Let medicine be thy food, let food be thy medicine. And Steve Jobs, in his very last essay that he ever wrote before he died, said, let food be thy medicine, so medicine need not be your food.
Mm.
I think that everything that nature made cannot be unhealthy.
Well,
But,
there are poisonous plants. Arsenic is a plant made in nature. Heroin is natural. So you have to be careful. When somebody says to me, oh, but it's natural, I remind them of that.
But they encourage everywhere is the usage of cannabis is encouraged.
Well,
You
that's a
have
different
pains, why don't you take cannabis?
That's another topic that I am not prepared to
That's,
speak about or educated enough to speak on. And I wrote, digesting these emotions is priority to stabilizing long-term food habits. Absolutely. One size does not fit all, for sure.
Anyway, everybody wants to lose weight. I'm trying to gain weight because I'm so weak that wind blows me on the street.
Well,
And
you
I
know
used
what
to
you
be
have to do.
overweight a little bit.
You know what you have to do. You've got to start listening to your body and start experimenting with what you like to eat and see how your body responds.
Before the pandemic, I was always a little overweight, and I was excellent with every food. There was no food in this world that makes me feel bad. or
Well,
causes me
maybe
any
there's
kind
something
of
off
problem.
with your digestion. There could be something off with digestion. Maybe it is stress related. Maybe there's a bacterial overgrowth. That's something that you should definitely.
It's a virus, and I heard the extremely intelligent phrase from one of the doctors. If I were in the United States, I would go to find this doctor and work with him. He said, everybody who started having a symptom after November 2019, which he didn't have before, is most probably long haul COVID. It should start from there.
Well, there's a lot we don't know about COVID. It's true.
And people refuse to start. That's the starting point. I still think that my body went crappy because of the virus.
Oh.
Though I didn't have COVID officially.
Well, we are at the top of the hour. I thank you all so very much for joining me today. And Linda, again, extra
It's a
thank you.
pleasure
And
to have the patience to listen to us.
I'm going to hand this recording over to my assistant who will edit it and make it appropriate. And Linda, you and I will talk about what we can do with it.
Okay.
I so appreciate your input. I really do. I want this to be a community. You know, I want us to reach out to each other and be here for each other. And if there are 2 people on this call or 12 people on the call, my heart is full. And I won't see you again till September, but
Okay.
you know, you can email me. You know, I respond quickly, and I'm here to serve. So I thank you all so very much. Have a wonderful summer and a
You.
rest of the day.
You to enjoy your
Yeah.
vacation.
Bye-bye.
Have a
Bye.
great time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.